I know you must be wondering why is it built on Chrome's V8 engine? It's not like it is on every Chrome's browser, but should I say the inventor now, like the first person that came up with it, used JavaScript, what's it called? Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine to build Node.js. So that's why it is written there that it is built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So before Node.js, what was happening? What do we have? So web applications were written in a client-server model where the client would demand resources from the server, and the server will respond with the resources. The server only responded when the client requested and would close connection after each response. I don't know if you understand that. Like after every request made from the user, that is from the client side, the what's it called? The server will V8 engine. It's not like and it is on Node.js. So that's right. It has to shut down. It is built on Chrome V8 JavaScript before taking another engine. Before Node.js, what was happening? What do we have? So web applications are written in a client-server model. So where the client will this pattern is efficient because from the server to the server takes resources and resources. The server only responded CPU when the client requested. So it's wiser to close connection after each response. Serving the requested assets. Like, so the server could respond to other made requests from the user. I would like from the client side. A case of a food restaurant. What's it called? This whereby they have just one. It's not like after that particular right. It has to like shut down number on Chrome. You know when you place JavaScript another just one Node.js attend to everybody. So web applications are written in a client-server model. So where the client this pattern is sufficient from the server to the server takes time before the introduction of Node.js. The server only responded to when the client requested. So it server has to attend to one request, shut down the connection, then attend to the other request. So you can imagine how time consuming it was before the introduction of Node.js. All right. So, okay. All right, let me just go through this. Okay. As well as on server side, and therefore benefit from the usability of code and the lack of context switching. All right. What else? Okay, difference between JavaScript and Node.js. Mind you, I said Node.js was built on JavaScript V8, Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine, right? So now I would like to give a difference between JavaScript and Node.js. So here we come. JavaScript is a simple programming language which runs in any JavaScript, any browser JavaScript engine. So whereas, and mind you, for every browser, you can always deactivate that JavaScript engine. You can deactivate it not to run any JavaScript code on your browser if you don't want on any browser. Mostly Chrome. So whereas Node.js is an interpreter or running environment for a JavaScript programming language, which holds a lot of excesses, require libraries which can easily be accessed from JavaScript programming for better use. That is, even Node.js, aside from the fact that you have to install some other stuff for Node.js, for you to set up Node.js, like we have Express and other libraries that you import in order for you to run a JavaScript backup for your web site. So JavaScript is used in it. So if you have a deep knowledge of JavaScript, then you have a problem running Node.js on your server side. Okay. So now, okay. Now let me look at this now before Node.js. Imagine visiting Facebook and you were told to wait for five minutes for thousands of people requesting before you. You can imagine how it's going to look like before Node.js came into action now. You can imagine you want to like a picture and you are being told, okay, wait for people that have liked that particular image. Let the server run that request before attending to you. So you can imagine how it was before then. So now with the introduction of Node.js, here is where Node.js comes in. In Node.js, while the file system is reading the file, Node uses the idle time to handle other requests. When the file system is done, it's smart enough to tell Node to come take the resource and send to browser. This is possible because of the Node event loop. Now to explain this, I have an image. Like I said, Node is primarily made up of JavaScript and event loops. So now let's look at this image together now. This is like the request we all make from the client side now to Node.js, like to every browser. Now it comes here into the event loop. From this event loop, it registers every callback. Like this callback now is like a function. Like this is a function. This is a function. That is, after executing my request, a function will tell it, okay, bring it back. Like after executing, perform this. Like I didn't make any example of a JavaScript function. I would have shown you how this is done. Then, so this, when a request gets to this event loop, whenever, like when there is it's waiting for one event to execute, like go to the database, fetch request, and bring it out to this to the client before running another one. All the request comes inside this place, then everything kind of like processes together. So it depends on the request you are making, the number of time for the execution time for each of the requests. So it comes to this database. These are the file system, database, and computation like any mathematical computation. That's what I mean. So it comes, once it is done fetching whatever it needs here, then it comes back to this loop. Since this loop is like a continuous program, it doesn't stop. That is the difference between the introduction of Node.js and before the introduction. It's a continuous loop. So once it gets here, then a callback function is triggered to bring the results back to the client on this other side. I hope I've explained enough. Understand, right? So, okay, what don't you understand? Of yes, now, for example, now when you go to your browser and okay, when you want to log into your account, your profile. You trying to log in is a request you are sending. Do you understand? So it gets here, it comes to the database and fetch that do I have this username and password in my database. If you can find anyone here, then once the operation is complete and it has seen that okay, yes, you have an account, an existing account in this database, then it comes to this event loop and triggers this function. That is when you get that login successful response. Huh? I don't understand. Like, ask me questions. Am I clear enough? All right. So what are event handlers? So now don't let us be agitating within ourselves that what are event and event handler. Events are occurrence. Any event. You coming here, sitting down is an event. You looking at me is also an event.
Is an event.
No, not that. I'm not talking of that. Like an action. Any action at all.
Actually, women in tech.
Yeah, women in tech is an event. Yeah.
No, event of events.
So, all right, now, a function or method containing program statements that are executed in response to an event. An event handler typically is a software routine that processes actions such as keystroke and mouse movements. With websites, event handlers make web content dynamic. Now, we have common event handlers in web development and programming. We have, as you can see there, we have keystrokes, mouse movements, we have on click, we have on double click, we have on over, we have a whole lot of events. So that is what event handlers are. So you shouldn't be agitating within yourself that, what am I saying? So, all right. So from here, I'll be going to features of Node.js. Now, Node.js has fast backend solution. A point that gets the JavaScript framework points ahead of the Node.js versus PHP war is that this framework may be used to service various concurrent events. You understand? Like I've been explaining before, if for example, I trigger an event of on mouse over for me to get probably a drop down on mouse over, and you